92.5.
Well, we're joined in the studio by some pretty incredible people. It's a new movie, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, and the director is here, Alfonso Gomez-Rejon. Also, we're going to be talking to Thomas Mann and Olivia Cook. So thank you, everybody, for being here. The stars.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Alfonso, tell us about the movie. We were watching the trailer.
Yeah. Well, it's about the last year at high school of this kid named Greg Gaines, and he's trying to coast through high school, try not to make any friends, trying to not make any enemies, and as a consequence, doesn't make any friends either, and his mom forces him to hang out with this girl who was just diagnosed with leukemia, and that friendship ends up changing his life forever. Something like that, Thomas.
That was good.
That was good.
And then also he makes like these classic short films, so it's about him making a film for Rachel.
Learning how to shine.
And Rachel is played by Olivia.
Yes.
Yeah. So, watching the trailer for this movie, it starts off really like, oh, this is going to be super sad, but there's a lot of beauty in this film, isn't there?
Beauty and comedy and
yeah. Can you guys hit on some of that for us?
Sure, I'll start. I think what I loved about the script by Jesse Andrews was that I really saw myself in Greg, and I had that same feeling when I saw The Breakfast Club for the first time, and you really identified with that movie. It was the first time someone was speaking directly to you, and you felt like you got this. This was for me. They're speaking my language. I'm feeling what they're feeling, and it's not some sugar-coated kind of version of adolescence. It's a very honest depiction of it. And so the fact that I was feeling and identifying with this kid, well, there's something special here. And then it goes on to dealing with the big questions in life, but does it in a way that I think inspires creativity. And it's really a movie about discovery, and it's a movie that's not a traditional love story, but it's about love, a great love.
Right, because if it were a traditional love story, then you two would have gazed into each other's eyes and completely, right? Like, I loved that part, right? In the beginning of the trailer that I saw, I thought, oh, that is such a typical, teenage awkward moment. In the movie, you would look at each other and fall in love, and then it would be this amazing love story about the two of you. But instead, there's just that awkwardness at first. And it's like, okay, kind of don't know what to do now, you know? And you don't even know what to say, let alone how to behave in that situation.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it. It's like, that's the way that I would have reacted to the situation in high school. It's too abstract and uncomfortable to deal with these feelings, so he's just kind of honest and says, what he's thinking. I think Rachel responds to that, and that's why, she kind of lets him in.
And I think a lot of us in high school do feel like outsiders, whether it's you thinking you are or you really are, because you're a young artist or whatever it is. But sometimes you just want someone to get you, all of you, and to trust someone with all your quirks and insecurities, and just have them embrace you for who you are, and they find that. And that's the real deep connection that the movie's about. So that's what I meant. It's about that kind of a love.
Olivia, portraying a character, a young woman with leukemia who's still in high school, and it sounds like such a tragic story. How do you become that character?
Well, you never want to portray the character as a victim or a tragic character, so you don't want to play a girl with cancer, as in the physicality, just sick all the time, and everything is very, very heavy, because you don't lose yourself, you don't lose your personality just because you've got this illness. And one of the best things I did is I went and visited this girl at the children's ward at UCLA, and I spoke with her and her doctors and her dad, and just seeing her in her bed, and she was so still. She was so beat by the rounds of chemotherapy, and it hadn't worked, so she was getting a bone marrow transplant. And she had no hair, but she had all the tons of One Direction posters on the wall and all this pop culture that she was so into, that she loved, and speaking to her dad. And you don't lose your sense of self, but it is striking to see someone like that when they're so indistinguishable, when a woman has lost the hair, because it's just you identify a person just from the back of the head, like, oh, I know that person, that's Jenny or something, because that's one of the most obvious defining features on a woman.
So it's almost a lesson to be learned in this movie as well, then, right? Is that there's still that person in there. There's still so much more than the disease.
Completely, and Rachel's the stronger one out of the relationship between her and Greg. She is the one that helps Greg realize his full potential. But Alfonso and I, we mapped out this chart of chemotherapy and stages of cancer to draw upon when I needed to physically and mentally get there for certain scenes.
That had to be hard.
No, it wasn't. It was really nice to feel just real, raw emotion for a change and feel... It's very fulfilling.
You would think though, to turn it on and turn it off, that's a big deal.
It never felt like a big ask or like I was accessing some part of me that was just so unfamiliar, because I feel like it's so relatable, the story, and accessible, and we've all kind of somewhat been through loss and tragedy, and or have someone that has been ill very close to us. Yeah.
You guys, how did you both get called for the movie? Like, what were you doing, and when you got the word here about the movie, what brought you to this movie?
Well, I mean, it just came through my agent like any other script, and I read it and just really, really responded to Greg. It reminded me a lot of the kind of person that I was in high school, and just I don't know, the most modern depiction of a real teenager, very self-aware. And I liked that he was sort of confident in his own way, but still very insecure, if that makes any sense. He's just kind of, he was really smart. Someone who has all the answers, but doesn't really, have he's too stubborn or selfish to kind of make use of them. And so I really chased it as hard as I could, especially once I found out Alfonso was on board. I knew it was going to be something, not just a teen movie, but just something really deep and meaningful, and also visually interesting. A lot of coming-of-age movies, I feel like, just have the stock look to them, and and it was just a long process to get cast, but it was worth it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the same here. I got the script and immediately wanted to audition for the role, and then did, and then it was this arduous process of meeting with other people and chemistry with Thomas, and then loving him, and then but having to read with other boys and not loving them so much, and then writing Alfonso a really desperate letter to try and convince him, and then finally being cast, which was a relief.
So, Alfonso, from your perspective as the director, so you read the screenplay first, and then you decide that this is a project you want to jump on. Is that how it works?
You have to fight to get the job.
Okay.
So I did immediately. I knew that this was something that only I could make. One of those things. And so I expressed my interest, and I had only been doing Glee and American Horror Story as a director. So this was, and they were looking. I know the company Indian Paintbrush was looking at other directors with more features behind them or under them. And but I was given a great piece of advice by an old NYU college roommate that said that I should put together a visual presentation just to get a chance to maybe just stand out a little bit more. So I waited it out for months while they met other directors, and other directors I knew were coming close to getting the job, but they wouldn't pull the trigger on them until they met me as a courtesy. But that meeting went very well, and my presentation was good. And I think there's that saying that the truth has its own frequency, and it's true. I think you can't fake certain things, and I think maybe they felt that. And after many pitches, my version of auditioning, I got the job.
Right. So all these other directors probably had their own vision for the movie,
yes.
right?
Not interested in knowing what those were.
I'm
sure they were much more interested.
Yeah, terrible. But you have a quirkiness to it, and to talk to us about what you added that maybe some of the others wouldn't have.
No idea what their approach was, but I don't. It was more about the emotion. I really tapped into. I just really felt for Greg. I loved Greg. I loved all the characters. I identified with Greg very much. And it was at a time in my life when I wanted to tell a personal story and bury myself into this movie and work through my own stuff and come out a better person. And I had a visual sense of what I wanted it to look like. And I was reminded of Mike Nichols' The Graduate, and Hal Ashby's Harold and Maude, and wonderful documentaries. And I love movies. I'm a cinephile, so this idea that I could also celebrate movies, and I just it just worked on so many levels for me.
That's good. I see you got Connie Britton in this
yes.
from Nashville.
Yeah. I had worked with her on American Horror Story, and then she read the script and called me and said, I really want to do this, because she knew I was going to be involved. I was directing it. And it's because of Connie, really, the movie came together, because all of a sudden you have Connie Britton wants to be in your movie, and it becomes real, and you're able to get Nick Offerman to play Connie's husband. It makes it all easier, and so I'm so grateful to her.
It's funny because my son finally gets Netflix, right? So then we get American Horror Story, and he was totally into watching it. So I sat down and started watching it. And I said, "Oh, that's the lady from Nashville." Now making the whole connection with you. That's a great show.
Season 1. She was in season 1. Yeah.
Yeah, enjoy it. So the new movie is Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. When does it open?
June 19th at the Ritz East.